And I'm here with Leah. She's going to show us how to do her special baklava.
We have phyllo, and we're going to use 1.5 package, which seven of them will be on the bottom. Each one has to be buttered, and then we're going to be making mixtures. We have 6 cups of walnuts. We're going to pour the walnuts into a sauce here, and then we're going to take a dash of cloves, and that's a dash, and that's like this, and that's it. And then we're going to take 2 spoons, and I usually use this kind of spoon, so you could use measuring spoon, and I'm just like this, and it's okay to have a little more, a little less, or a little bit more. And that's 2 of this. And then we're going to use half a cup of sugar, and we're going to put all that inside with the walnuts, and we're going to make the mixture. So we put that in here, and then we take it, and this is what it looks like, and we're just going to mix it really good. So the cinnamon, the sugar, and the clove just really mix good. And then we're going to take
Why don't I mix while you...
cubes of butter melted. It takes about 1.5 minutes in the microwave.
Is that
unsalted?
Okay.
Make sure it's unsalted, and if it has a little foam on top, you just take the spoon and scrape it, and then in the bottom, try not to use the bottom. Then you have the phyllo, which just comes in a roll, and then you take it and you unroll it, and it's very thin, and you have to work pretty fast because it dries, and it's very important. So we're going to take this, we're going to take the butter, and we're going to melt the butter. The butter's melted, and then we're going to do the pan. Make sure it has butter all the corners because we want to make sure it sticks. And so we're going to start just mix the butter real good, and that's very important. And then we're going to put 7 layers of phyllo, but not the mixtures. So then you take one at a time, and it's very thin, and you take it and you put it inside, and each layer you have to mix the butter. I would highly recommend to do the edges first and make sure it just don't push it down, and then good, very gently. And then you take the next layer and you do this 7 times. 7 phyllos. Each phyllo is buttered individually, and then layers of 7. Then now we're ready to start, and this is what I do. I take a handful and I just go like this. And my hands are pretty good size, so if it needs to, don't put too much, but make sure it stays even. And then we do this until all this phyllo is finished, and we save 7 of them to do the top, and the top 7 do not have the walnuts, just the middle ones. And then you're done, and after that we're going to be showing you how to cut them, and turn the oven on to 325 while you're making the baklava, and you're going to be cooking it for 45 minutes. Sometimes the phyllo gets broken because it's so thin, it breaks. Just do it like that. You do a quilt, but make sure it's even. So we just kind of make sure that we don't cheat and put thicker spots. So you do that and just patch it. And then you take the butter with a brush. And the brush is probably, what, 2.5 inches. I use the same brush always. I don't change. I got it from the paint company, and this is my baklava brush. So you take it and you put butter on this to make sure all of it is not, but don't make it too thick with a lot of butter. Then you take the hand of walnuts and just spread it. And then again, you keep doing this until your phyllo is done. Now be aware that the phyllo is a little difficult to work with, and you just do your very best. It is very thin, like the old-fashioned onion paper, and it does break, but if it does, it's okay. Just make sure that you're gentle and just keep working. Do your very best, and it'll be nice. Try not to push it down, because the fluffier it is, the better it is. Also, the harder it is to make, to get the phyllo separated, actually the baklava becomes even better, because when it has a lot of flour, the phyllo separates easy, but then the baklava is not as tender, or it's not as fluffy, because it's a little bit more dry. So again, we just take this handful, spread it around evenly, and then keep doing that, and you'll have a wonderful family dessert for feeding quite a few people. You can make up to 65, maybe 70 pieces, depends on the size you cut them. Some people like to cut them small and bite size. Some people like to cut them big. I prefer to cut them medium, because if someone doesn't like it. And the other most important thing is, if you give it to somebody, make sure you have the recipe in there that it has walnuts, because some of us are allergic to walnuts, and they can be very poison to the body. So just let them know that what the ingredients that it has there, in case someone in the family or a child that is highly allergic to walnuts. So good luck, and we'll continue and show you after we finish how to show you how we're going to do the cutting.
It's my turn now. I'm separating the phyllo dough. I've already sprinkled on the walnut layer. Phyllo dough goes on top. So just so you know, this is my second time practicing this, and it's not easy. Very lightly. I try not to push on the phyllo dough, because my first time I was pushing on the phyllo dough and it made the baklava kind of dense. So I've learned my lesson not to push down, just gently, be very gentle with it. Okay. Next is the walnuts.
One handful, please.
My hands are not as big as yours, Leah. I have to do more than one.
And please make it evenly.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Lightly brush the butter. And I'm not pushing down, because I don't want it to be dense. Not bad, Leah, huh, for the second
You're
time.
doing wonderful. You're doing wonderful. Great student. Very great student.
So this is a traditional Greek baklava, Leah, that you learned this recipe from?
I learned this about over 50 years ago. It was a Greek lady that entertained families on Sundays, serving baklava for dessert, leg of lamb, and some cheese pies, spinach pies. And I loved it, and I thought it would be a great idea to learn how to do it. And of course, my tradition is to make this baklava for my broker's tours. That's when I have a new house listed. And it is something that it's been tradition for me to continue learning to teach others. I love teaching at my home, of course, and just to for people that have desire to learn how to make it. And hands-on is easiest than trying to explain the recipe. It is very different when you. And this is our last layers that we have the walnuts, and this is what it looks like. Now we're going to start just putting this on, and we're just going to take and we're going to do the normal brushing it very gently so we don't squeeze it down. And then we're just going to continue doing this with a 7 phyllo. Now the extra one, we're going to wrap it, keep it, but try not to get it wet, because if you get it wet, you're going to have a lot of problem, because it sticks, and once it sticks together, the only way you could get the good part is cut that other part off. And that's if it somehow is stuck together, just take the scissors and cut that area so you could have the rest of it to make it easier to go ahead and work on it. This filo, it turned out to be very, very good. It doesn't have a lot of flour. Sometimes the dough does have a lot of flour and it's easy to work, but the baklava is not near as tasty as the less flour it has. And you can see the flour here. It's not so bad, but in here, of course, doesn't have any. So it's
Leah,
a good dough.
basically you've got 7 layers on the bottom between the phyllo and butter, 7 layers, and then in between you've got 1 layer each and walnuts and butter. Now you're finishing off with
Correct.
7 layers of phyllo and butter, correct?
You're correct.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. That is very good. My student turned out to be a very successful student. I love it. I think she's ready to go on her own and make it, and then I'll have to be invited to come and taste it. However, I could look at a baklava without a taste in it and could tell if it's turns out good or not. Sometimes it's not the maker, sometimes it's the weather. If it's a damp weather, it gets a little bit kind of soft. So make sure you never put it in the refrigerator because sugar crystallizes. And the other is don't cover baklava. Baklava you cannot cover because it gets moisture. So always keep it outside in the corner, or if you have to keep it to keep ants away, keep it in the microwave. Just don't turn the microwave on well. This is the extra that we have, and we don't want to throw it away, and we don't want it to keep it from, we want to keep it from drying or getting moisture in it. So I very gently roll it up, and then I'm going to be putting it in the little containers to keep it for my next batch of baklava. So I save this, and then I just take it and I put them inside like this, and I save it. And sometimes what I do is I take and I roll it like this, and then I staple it so no air could go in to keep it from drying and to keep the moisture out. Now we're ready to start cutting the baklava. It's finished, it's ready, the oven is on at 325 and it's warming up while we're getting ready to cut it. So what I do is the most important thing, I call it ribbons. We cut it, and the size of the width of the ribbon will determine the size of the baklava. So if you want small pieces, you make the ribbons smaller. If you want bigger, then you get it wider. So I take it and I just cut it. You cut the baklava before you cook it. And here we go. Try to stay even, so when you make it diamond shape, then they're all going to be the same size. Now, if you have problem of making it all even, it's okay too. It's just they're not going to measure your pieces individually, but it does look nice when you go display it and you put it in a plate, each piece, and I make it like a little poinsettia, especially during the holidays like Christmas time. I make it like a little poinsettia, and sometimes I use candy canes in between, and sometimes I use M&Ms, but some of them are red, some of them are green, and we'll show you the end result of how you could just make it a nice display and then get it to one of your friends that you love very much to share your talents. So then now we're going to cut them into the diamond shape, and make sure when you push down so the phyllo doesn't come up, just put gently. You have to have a nice sharp knife to make sure it cuts good, but don't put too much pressure with your left hand, and just use a lot of pressure with your right hand. Just push down with your knife. And here it is how each one is going to look. These are good size. This is not actually small, not too big, but they're good size. And you can see how nice this comes. So this is all you have to do, and you keep cutting until you finish all the way to to the end. Now we have 3 cups of sugar. We pour it in here, and that's 3 cups of sugar. And then we put 2 cups of water in here. 1, and then we put 2. And then we take a lemon, half a lemon, and we cut it up and put that whole lemon right in. Make sure it's washed. And then I take honey, and I'm right now I'm in the end of my jar of honey that my brother gave me from his bees. And it's about this much. Use 2 spoons of honey. And then what I'm going to do is take this, mix it up, and then put it over the stove. And don't leave the stove. You have to stay right close, because when the syrup comes to boil, you better be standing close to it, or otherwise it gets
It's gonna be a mess.
and boils everywhere. So now we're going to take this over to the stove, and getting ready, boiling. It's going to start coming up. A little bit more, and then I'm going to take it out away from the stove, put it on the side, stir a little bit, turn your stove off, and then when the baklava is ready to come out, which is very probably in another 20 minutes, the baklava has to be hot. This will be cool off because you'll have 20 minutes of cooling it off, and you pour it over the oven evenly. Make sure you don't cheat and leave any areas in the pan that is not covered by the syrup.
So basically, after you take the baklava out, the syrup's gonna be cool, and we're gonna pour it directly over the baklava. Right.
There we go. Look how beautiful it looks.
Oh, it is pretty. So baklava comes out after how many minutes in the oven?
45 minutes at 325.
325. Okay.
And then we're going to take the syrup.
Syrup
That
goes
is
over.
cooled off. And listen to it. It sizzles.
Pretty.
And it gives that glazed look. And we're thankful, and a wonderful gift to give to people that it's not chocolate, but make sure they're aware it has walnuts. So we don't want anybody to have a swollen tongue or mouth from the walnuts. And that's it.
So this is
Well
Leah's
done.
baklava. Leah's famous
Homemade.
Greek baklava. After knowing you for, what, 7, 8 years now, Leah, finally I get to learn the secret.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're
Merry
welcome.
Christmas, everybody.